welcome to Week and Geek, your new comic preview for May 25th. I'm Mike Ortiz.
I'm the Chris Brown.
So, what do you got this time?
Well, looks like we got a pretty good week this week. And I'm going to lead with, this is going to be a big surprise to everybody. I'm trying to pick books that we never pick.
Yeah, we're good at that.
Yes, it was 2 weeks ago, but it is that good. That's why we bring up FF every time. That's why we bring up Jonathan Hickman, because the stuff is that good. I've not had a chance to read this one all the way through yet, but I did read the first few pages, and Hickman even makes Sue Storm and Spider-Man making sandwiches together interesting.
Wow.
Obviously, the last issue was interesting. You've got the revelations with with Valerie and the alternate reads, and as we always say, high concept, big story going on, and he just keeps on pushing through it. So this one looks just as good as the rest, and I am really, really excited to get to this one.
Nice.
Next up, we got here, I've been enjoying this Venom book a bit more than I thought I would.
I think a lot of people are.
Because I think it's something different. And it's like, as though they're finally evolving the suit. People complain about characters not ever really evolving. Well, Venom's a tricky fish, because him as a character is, Eddie Brock. And then what they were doing with Matt Gargan.
Right.
You have to realize that it's the suit.
Right.
And so now taking that approach to it, Rick Remender, the guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So he tells some good, fun comic stories. Next up, we got Power Man and Iron Fist. It's the end of this miniseries. I think this book has been pretty good. Chad talked about this in one of his last columns for that website he was writing for, where he mentioned that where have all the new characters come? Or where have all they gone? Then they're all legacy characters, like a new Power Man. Wolverine's got a son and a daughter. Creators, because, books aren't the Marvel stuff isn't creator-owned, they're not putting their own ideas on the line anymore. They can go do their creator-owned projects, and then you get, yet another kid being Power Man. And that's fine. It's been a good book. I really like Iron Fist, and I think Van Lent's been writing him pretty well. So this is a pretty good, strong book. I'm gonna move that one down the list a little bit. Next up, we've got that fourth Avengers title that Damon and I were talking about last week.
The one nobody knows about.
Secret Avengers. This book has been really, really good. It's now actually written by Spencer. What is that? Nick Spencer is writing it now. It's no longer Ed Brubaker. But we'll see. I like his Morning Glories. He's been getting a lot of hype on things. Let's see what he can do with Secret Avengers.
He did the .1 issue, I think.
Oh, did he roll? Okay, yeah. That's right. So he rolled us in there, and that was a pretty good issue. I liked where that was going. Then we've got Ruse. I've been liking this book. Kind of the Victorian detective kind of stuff. I never read Cross Gen when it was going, but I'm liking it now. Maybe it just wasn't hitting me right when it first came out. Could have something to do with the fact that I was still going to college and poor and all that, and could barely afford booze, let alone some new comic from some publisher I'd never heard of. Then, creator-owned. We'll dip into those creator-owns. Walking Dead 85. This book has been just powering through real powerful stuff the last few issues. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys, because if you haven't already read issue 83, it's your own damn fault. The huge thing that happens to Carl, whoa. Now we're working through it, and now it's, Kirkman hits these nice beats where he gives you something that just blows your mind, and then he reels it back in and gets a softer touch and, stops to tell his story. Now, what I like about that is, and this is probably, these image books, and we've talked about these image books, they got a flip book here, Witch Doctor number 0. And Witch Doctor was something that I ordered, so I'll have number 1s coming in. It sounds kind of interesting. First, this 0 here is titled Interview with the Tapeworm. It's got this sketchy pencils, no ink kind of look, but I think it looks kind of neat, and I'm curious to see where it's going. And then again, it's one of these image books. They've been putting out some really, really fun, weird,
great stuff,
kind of macabre stuff. Like they've been almost getting a nice little horror thing going.
Definitely.
I
wonder why.
Well, it's been successful.
Couldn't be because they got a TV show with Walking Dead. Maybe.
Right? Like, hey, that's where our bread's buttered. Let's do it. Next up, issue 2 of that fantastic Planet of the Apes. I really liked that first issue. I'm curious to see where this is going. There was the assassination of the lawgiver, and there's the strife between Human Town and Ape Town, and basically it's right around the time of the 5th movie. It feels like, where there's still.
I thought it was a prequel.
Yeah, but the 5th movie's a prequel.
This is true.
So it's that time loop. Like
Yeah.
it may be a prequel to the first movie, but the fifth movie is a prequel to the first
It's
movie.
in between
As is the
4 and
fourth.
5.
Yeah. The third movie, is that bridge that loops them. That loops them
We're
around.
getting complicated. Just buy the book.
Just buy the book, it's good. And watch the movies too. I don't care if they confuse you with the time loop. If it happened, it happened. Next up, another creator-owned book, Vertigo book, friend of the show, let's call it, even though I don't know if Scott Snyder watches WeekNGeek, but he is a friend of Geek Fights.
He has been on Geek Fights.
He's a friend of Geek Fights, so we'll call him a friend here as well. American Vampire has been a really, really good book. I really like it. It's interesting. It's different. The art is fantastic. I really like Raphael Albuquerque. And, check out American Vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got Amazing Spider-Man. Working our way up to the Infested, the whole Road to Spider Island stuff. I like that they had been tying it in with the FF. Now they got this kind of the Avengers Academy thing going. Dan Slott seems to just sort of be hanging around and looks like Christos Gage kind of filling in for a couple issues here. Just to tell this.
In the red and blue costume. Also.
Yep. So that's probably just for the couple issues where they're doing this Avengers Academy thing, and then Slott's going to obviously go off and do his whole Spider Island business. Then I've got Action Comics 901, springing out of 900. They had done all the Lex Luthor stuff. Superman renounces his citizenship, which I don't think is going to have anything to do with the cost of tea in China or Action Comics 901.
Yeah.
But it does look like it's more of this reign of Doomsday, which we're calling Reign of the Doomsdays for this issue.
Yet another 90s thing that's back.
Well, I guess maybe this is one of those answers to Chad's question, like where have there been any characters that have left an impact?
Yeah.
I think Doomsday is one of them. Well, at the time it was like he looks kind of weird. I don't know. He killed Superman and he was gone and he just
Showed up at the end of Booster Gold last week too.
Okay. There have been some good Doomsday stories over the years, and yeah, I think the character is a good one and he fits into the Superman mythos well.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you got there this week?
Well, I'm going to start off with a little green. We got a Green Lantern movie coming up.
That we do.
We've got Green Lantern Corps number 60. That's part. Actually, I guess it's which is
What's the order there?
we got Green Lantern
That's
number
part
66.
7.
That's part 7. Green Lantern Corps number 60 is part 8, and Green Lantern Emerald Warriors number 10, which is part 9. 3 chapters of the War of the Green Lanterns. I've been following this all along. Not been as good as the Sinestro Corps War and some of the other things, but there have been some interesting developments going on.
I like it.
Everybody's getting to play with different colors. Kyle's blue and John's indigo and Hal's yellow and Guy is red. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. At the end of the last issue, everybody was pretty much just floored by Mogo. Odd to have all 3 of them come out in the same week.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting.
But hey, I
get a
guess
nice
we're
big
just gonna,
chunk
just
story.
gonna rush ahead to the end of the War of the Green
You
Lanterns.
get half the graphic novel in 1 week.
No kidding. Next up is Captain America, number 618. This looks like it focuses on Bucky in the Russian prison camp, which has been a great story, great artwork, really interesting way to kind of take the character. I would never have guessed that Bucky would be back. Never would have guessed he would become Captain America. Basically, there's no Captain America right now. So Ed Brubaker has found a way to do things that an old fart comic book fan like me cannot predict, which is a pretty impressive thing, I think. Next up, this is kind of odd. It's Strange Adventures. This is a Vertigo book. It's their sci-fi book, but it's also, I believe, incorporating Ultra the Multi-Alien. So it's kind of funny. The DC Universe gets Swamp Thing and Constantine back, and they must have traded for Ultra the Multi-Alien and a comic book character to be named later.
It's a big backroom deal.
Good stuff. It's an anthology book with just some sci-fi stories by a bunch of different creators. So I've always liked sci-fi. I've liked anthologies. I figure I'll give this a try. Next up is Mighty Thor. He had a movie.
He did have a movie.
Now this is not tying into Fear itself.
It's a good-looking cover too.
Gorgeous cover, gorgeous art. The premise of this is Thor and that's a great shot of the Destroyer. Thor and Galactus and the Silver Surfer, and we're really amping up the cosmic sci-fi on Thor. Matt Fraction's been kind of moving it away from the mythological run that JMS did, getting it a little bit more sci-fi in tune with the Lee Kirby and the movie. So that's been good stuff so far. Yet another Scott Snyder book, Detective Comics. Pretty interesting cover this week.
Snyder's our new Hickman. I think
He is our new
decided,
Hickman.
yeah.
Jock is the artist again. Great stuff. It's a really interesting story. This is Dick Grayson as Batman. This is, like the title says, this is the detective one. This is not a superhero book. This is not the jet-setting Batman. This is the good old school detective Batman, even though it's not Bruce Wayne. Next up, Uncanny X-Men. Kieran Gillen's been doing some good stuff. This is, as I mentioned before, picking up plot points from Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men. It deals with the Break World and Colossus, and I'm pretty sure at the end of this, we get a non-intangible Kitty Pryde. She's been back for a while, but she's been kind of stuck in her intangible form. Incredible Hulks. Now, they have recently announced
Still picking it up.
that this book has been canceled.
Really?
It will end its run, and then I'm sure.
So you win.
I win.
You win. He steadfastly, I'm going to read this book anyway.
I don't know how
He
I
lasted
win.
longer than the powers that be.
I don't know why I win, but I win. So
You were more stubborn than Marvel.
Yep. It's been pretty good. I'm not going to go on about this anymore. I'm sure they'll just eventually give this numbering over to
The Red Hulk.
the Red Hulk book when that turns back into the Green Hulk book, which is going to happen eventually.
You know what someone mentioned today? Do you remember an episode of the old Incredible Hulk TV show where there was another doctor that also turned himself into a Hulk?
Mm-hmm.
I did not remember this. This person that was in here today, he turns into a Red Hulk.
Really?
That's what this person was claiming.
I don't remember a Red Hulk. I remember another Green Hulk.
I don't know. I got to look into this.
It was a long
look
time
into
ago.
this. Craziness.
Next up is Kirby Genesis #0 from Dynamite.
Oddly interested.
This,
I'm a little curious.
It's basically Alex Ross and Kurt Busiek are behind this. It looks like the cover looks like Marvel's. They are resurrecting basically all of Kirby's old Pacific Comics stuff, Captain Victory and Silver Star, and basically this is just a new stab at the Kirbyverse with the approval of the Kirby estate.
Kirby State also approved of it when Topps Comics did it, and we all remember how that worked out.
But you know,
I'm just saying.
This is official. I think
So
we
was
can call
that.
it a creative own. Forget about that. Again, the 90s stuff is back. So I'm gonna give it a shot. I read all the Kirby stuff at Pacific. We'll see if they can capture the spirit. If anybody can capture the spirit of 30-year-old comic, it's Alex Ross and Kurt Busiek. A modern comic, maybe not, but an old comic they can do. Next up in the creator-owned is Butcher Baker #3. Also this week is the second print of #2, if you missed that. This has been a crazy book. Joe Casey writes some wild stuff. The art is fantastic.
Yes.
It's basically, it's like the main character, Butcher Baker, is kind of like the comedian from Watchmen, but taken in a much more comedic and twisted place. If you like an unusual...
Somehow funnier and more twisted than the comedian from
Yeah.
Watchmen. Really?
It's
How does that
crazy
work?
stuff. You know, if you like your superheroes to be a little odd, a little subversive, a little the way that your parents and grandparents would have probably been offended by, then give Butcher Baker a try. And so what's your top choice?
So my top choice for this week is I've got we're going back to where we started.
Mm-hmm.
Got a little Secret Warriors #27 here. Hickman has been doing a great job with this book. This is the last issue is going to be the last issue of this title, which is too bad. I think it's been a really good book. I think Marvel just didn't really give him enough time to go and do what he needed to do.
This was the plan. This wasn't canceled. This was Hickman.
No,
finishing it.
he had a plan to go about twice as many issues.
Really?
Yeah, and then they told him, no, we're only going to give you this many issues. Because all of a sudden, like at about the 17 issue mark, it suddenly kicked into a breakneck pace of getting toward its conclusion. And so they backed him up. They told him so many issues. Then they started giving him more issues until they settled on 28. I think he wanted to go 50-some is what I was originally reading. But now he wrapped it up, but he's getting to the point. He's telling the story he wanted to tell. It's been a great book. It's tying into S.H.I.E.L.D. It does have the Nathaniel Richards stuff in it. So if you're like an FF, the legacy of what's going on there is going to be in here.
My top pick, going back to the beginning, is another Green Lantern book. This is one of the DC Comics Presents. This is one of those things where they've got the format. They're reprinting a lot of older stuff. I've gone on about this many times. I've loved all of these books. They're a great value. This was originally a $25 hardcover, then or a $20 hardcover, then like a $15 trade paperback. Now it's an $8 comic book. Same story that you would have gotten back in, 2000 and something. Same thing you would have gotten back then for a fraction of the price. So it's a great, great value. This is one of my all-time favorite Green Lantern stories.
Oh, okay.
It's written by J.M. DeMatteis, drawn by the late Seth Fisher. It's crazy detail. It's kind of it's got like a Jeff Darrow sort of vibe to it. Great colors. This actually came out back when Hal Jordan was not Green Lantern. It doesn't fit in with continuity very well. I'm a little surprised that they're actually putting it out there now, because it can kind of confuse people who are reading about the green willpower and all of that stuff. It's a really wild story from the very beginnings of Hal Jordan as a Green Lantern. One of the first things he has to do. It's weird. It's psychedelic. J.M. DeMatteis is one of my favorite writers, but he writes some very unusual stuff, and this has kind of a weird psychedelic metaphysical vibe to it. And I dig all that stuff, and I dig Green Lantern. And how can I not dig this book? So if you haven't checked it out before in its other versions, check it out now.
And that is your Week in Geek.